paper on Egypt's water conflict and crisis. 97% of Egypt's water all comes from the Nile, so from aquifers and rainwater and everything else, 97% of all the water sources is from the Nile. And at the rate that they're going, if they keep on going like that, the river will run out of water by 2025. And then...
That's not long.
No, and then they're not looking for other sources actively enough to give them water. And there's really not that much to find because Egypt's a dry region, so there's not much rainwater and there's not much aquifers left. Like Egypt only gets 100 millimeters of water per year, well, rainwater per year. And then this is just some statistics, which is 925 cubic meters of water in 1996, which equaled out to be 2.5 cubic meters per person. And then they're estimating in 2015 that 653 cubic meters, that would be 600 meters of water, and then 1.8 per person. So that's good now. And then this is about two things: wasting important resources and inequality protesting. Egypt isn't known to be rich, but there's still some rich, and most are people living in slums, but they're still treated differently. The poor are dehydrating and dying while the rich are, like, they are watering their grasses and just wasting water and able to use as much as they want. And then obviously this causes uprisings to occur because it's unfair, and most of the protesters are from slums since the rich are taking care of us, so they don't care. And then protesters block the streets, occupy buildings, break into government homes, and like attack people. And then for wasting important resources, to try to prevent waste from occurring, they're watching where all the water is going and how much water is being used for each area, so they could not waste as much water since they don't have water to waste. Like farmers are watched especially since if they overwater their crops, they're wasting water that could be used for people to drink. And then water shortages reduce country development, since if there's less water, they can't be used for industry and agriculture. And agriculture, I think it's on the next slide, is like the government's survival and economic stability. And then claustrophobic areas is just talking about the overpopulation in Egypt. Obviously, if the population increases, then more supplies need to be made, and there's more demand, but there's not enough water to meet the demand. And then overcrowding is occurring at the Nile shores because that's where the water is, so everyone wants to go there. And then 86% of water is used for agriculture, so only 14% is able to be used for drinking and bathing and cleaning for the whole population, which are about 80 million are in Egypt at the moment. And then this is just a chart saying how like the population has risen. Like in 1950, there was about 20 million people. Then 2010, there was about like 80 million. Then in estimating 2050, there would be about over 120 million. So like every decade, it's about 1 million, well, 10 million per decade, estimating. And then it shows up better on my computer. You can't really see that as well. But farming banished.
If you had done that in real black, that's brown, right?
No, it's black.
That is black?
I lightened the color in the background, but it's not lightened enough.
Yeah, it's not popping enough, but go ahead.
Yeah. Farming is the country's survival and economic stability. Survival because people need food, And then economic stability, since the money goes around in the economy because they need to ship food and the people need to buy it. So if no money's going around, the economy is dying. And then 61% of land is unusable for agriculture, since most of Egypt is a desert and you can't really grow crops in the desert. And then farmers sometimes use runoff water and wastewater, because if, like in the other slides, if another farmer overuses water, then other farmers don't have enough to have their crops grow, so they'll use dirty water. And then water shortages change policies for water distribution in most areas. That's pretty much just saying that since there's less water, the government is making policies of how much water each person gets, which will be less. That's pretty much all that's saying. And then water politics is just about the 9 other countries that Egypt shares the Nile with, like Rwanda and Kenya and Sudan. And then Egypt will not share its water. I didn't really do research on the other countries, but I think they have other resources of water besides just the Nile. So Egypt wants all the Nile to itself because they don't have any other resources to use. And then Egypt threatens to take legal or military action if the water is taken from them. So they'll probably start a war if the other countries take all the water.
And they have in the past, right?
Yeah.
Did your research show that?
Yeah.
Yes,
So they'll
absolutely.
probably start more. And then the Nile flows north. So Egypt is considered a downstream country, so it's vulnerable to the upstream countries of all of them taking the water and building dams. So then by the time the water reaches Egypt, they don't have as much water, and then they're vulnerable because then they're weaker. And then that's just another table that I had in my paper. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be, but it's showing that Sudan has like 18.5, I'm guessing, cubic meters of water or something. And then Egypt has more because in a treaty, it says that Egypt has more rights to the water than the other countries.
Why is that? Why does Egypt have more rights than the other countries?
Maybe because they don't...
Does it have a larger population? Is it because the majority of the Nile exists in Egypt, even though Egypt is a downstream country? You don't know. That's all right. What you would say in an ordinary briefing is, I don't have that answer, but I'll get back to you. Okay? Right. And that's all you have to do. Okay? Is that it? Very nice, Danielle. You're a very good briefer. No, you're a very good briefer. You're very calm. You know your topic. And you seemed very, very comfortable with it. That was very good. All right, a couple of questions. Emmy, what have you got for her?
About the rich people, is the government trying to, or going to do anything about it now?
Well, in another slide, it says like they're watching how much water usage everyone is getting. So I'm guessing they'll try to make it less, but the rich are like what helps the economy, you know what I mean? So they probably don't care as much.
Okay. Stephen?
She answered my question. Well, why aren't they looking for any other resources? As far as getting water?
I think at the moment they're not really worried about it as much. They think that like all the Nile is for them, and then that it's the Nile River, so it's like unlimited supply when it's really not. And I don't really think they have much other resources to look for.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.